We're at a pretty pivotal moment where, the vast majority of traffic to websites over the last 20 years has come from Google. And, because of the rise of OpenAI, ChatGPT and those kind of tools, Google has kind of fundamentally changed the sort of rules of engagement.
Events are great for setting expectations and managing them because you can get the feeling what people are thinking. When you're only in the online world, it's way harder.
The one thing that we always advise to people, especially smaller indies, is to get some sort of outside eyes on your game, which is why, events are magic.
And now for a sponsored message from Greenman Gaming. Greenman Gaming is creating new revenue streams and discoverability options that will help businesses extend the lifecycle of their video games and grow their audience. Greenman Gaming recently revealed its Charity Bundles platform, a curated way for publishers to reach new audiences, generate incremental revenue, and support causes that matter. The platform offers transparent stock levels, instant key fulfillment, and regional pricing, all while raising funds for charities such as Special Effects One Special Day. You can get involved at www.greenmangaming.com/company/charity-bundles. Elsewhere, Greenman Gaming Distribution is a new service that helps studios boost discoverability by activating titles across 180 plus vetted retailers, reaching over 100 million gamers and delivering up to 20 to 30% more revenue compared to Steam-only sales. Now, back to the show. Hello and welcome to the Keywords Studios Supercharged Summit, powered by the game business. I hope you're having a fantastic Gamescom. And for those tuning in online, hello and welcome to the Game Business Show. For those of you unfamiliar with what the Game Business is, we are a relatively new business publication. We were set up back in April between myself and Jeff Keighley. Almost everything we do as a video, we do as a podcast, and we do as a newsletter and an article on the website. However you want to get your information, you can get your information that way. We cover the latest industry data. We analyze the games market. We speak to leading people in the industry. Already, we've spoken to Epic CEO Tim Sweeney, Sega President Shuji Itsumi, Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick, Netflix President Alan Tuscan, lots and lots and lots of people. And we do it all for free. So if you go to thegamebusiness.com, put in your email address, you'll never miss a thing that we put out. Today, we are doing a live version of our show, and we're looking at the current situation in video game marketing. This has always been a shifting world, and it's even more true today than it's ever been. The media is scaling back, and we're seeing an emergence of new independent publications. There appears to be more and more and more digital announcement events. Shows like Gamescom are buzzing, whereas others are fading away. Shadow drops are a thing. Everyone seems obsessed with Discord and short-form video. There's a lot going on. Now, we're not going to be able to cover all of that today, but we will do our best. And I have assembled a panel of experts to help us through it all. So let's begin. Hello. I'm going to start with, Michał, I got that right. Who are you? What are you doing here?
Hey everyone. My name is Michał Platkow-Gilewski, MPG in short, because we have so many Michałs in the company that I had to pick a nickname for me. So MPG. I'm a VP of PR and communication at CD Projekt.
And Caroline, for anyone in the room that doesn't know who you are, please introduce yourself.
Wow. Hi, I'm Caroline Miller. I'm the founder and the Indigo Pearl. We're a 25-year-old PR agency now. And we've always specialised in games, and games is where our, is what we do what we love, and that's what we love. So yeah, that's what we're here.
Rupert, apart from being my old boss, who are you and what do you do?
Hello, I'm Rupert Loman. I was previously founder 26 years ago of Gamer Network, so Eurogamer, gamesindustry.biz, which is where we work together, live events such as EGX in the UK. And more recently, I've been an angel investor in various games media and other games businesses. And then I founded a company called Just, which is a platform that rewards grassroots creators for creating content online.
Thank you, Rupert. And Sam.
Hello.
Who are you?
So I'm Samantha Lester. I'm studio head at ICHI. We're part of the Keywords group. And we do creative marketing services to support the gaming industry, and started in 2009 and worked adjacently in other kind of areas, kind of entertainment-wise, but predominantly gaming, and that's our specialism.
Well, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm going to start with you, Caroline, and I'll put some questions to you. We've just had opening night live. I think tonight is the Future Games show as well. There are more places than ever to showcase a game and announce them. Are they solving the problem of diversity? How do you decide where to reveal your game?
So there's so many factors that you have to look at. It depends on when your game is going to be ready. It depends on your budget. It depends on who your game's for. I mean, there are a lot of events, but that's a lot of opportunities as well. And you can kind of really choose one for you that's at the right moment. You can choose one that's for the right audience. Obviously, if you want to go after the console audience and you can persuade a Nintendo or PlayStation or Microsoft, you can be part of their showcase and have all that credibility that comes with that. If you're after wish lists, then obviously you want Steam, NextFest, and, you know, and you have to know how to handle that, so to get your demos out earlier. So, yeah, there are a lot of different things you can do, but it really depends on you, your budget, your audience, what assets you have. Do you have great gameplay? Or even sort of not picking a showcase at all, because something like Opening Night Live, it's a bit of a huge wave, really. So you can either ride it or it's going to drown you. So you just kind of have to decide. And you have to really know yourself. Are you interesting enough? Are you big enough? Is this the right audience? Are you going to spend all of your budget on this and then not have anything to follow up with? So there's a lot of considerations, but I think the main thing is just really kind of knowing where you fit in and knowing what audience that you want to go for.
MPG, CD Projekt I imagine has the pick of wherever it wants to go when it comes to The Witcher or Cyberpunk or anything like that. Or how do you choose or where you place those things?
So that was perfect answer. Like, you have to consider everything and more, and then there's luck and there's things which others will do, and you need to take into account all these factors. I like to think about what we are doing as having some kind of a playbook with many different ideas, tactics, strategies. And for every game, you need to guess which one will work the best. There's budget, super important, but also like at which phase you are. Can you announce something new? Like, we'll pick different event for announcing, because then you want everyone to talk about it in a split second. Like, you want to win a minute, 5 minutes, and become the thing everyone is talking about. So for that, you want to find the perfect place, moment. Like, we had some good moments in our history. Like, probably the most spectacular was Keanu Reeves reveal, but like, we're so lucky with that. It was months of planning, but also sheer luck, and also trust from Microsoft's side.
That your breathtaking moment was obviously a moment you couldn't have planned for that, could you?
Breathtaking, it was not staged. It was fun, but we picked an event which had a great potential coverage, so that was important. Was viewed by a lot of people, so the concurrent viewership was huge. And we designed the trailer the way that it slowly unveiled what we are showing, what you can expect, with a huge surprise and patch on the end. And then another one with Keanu entering the stage. And then we were lucky because crowd went crazy. I was there, I went crazy as well. It was amazing feeling. And then there was this guy shouting, "You're breathtaking." Keanu reacted to that in an awesome way, and it went viral, and that was all you could pray for. But you can design that, you can create opportunities. So like, there will be always this luck factor, and you need to help luck, basically.
Yeah, there's another story on the other side of the equation. An indie developer that wasn't signed was at one of those very, very small indie showcase events, and it was spotted by a publisher and an influencer, and those two, it was them picking it up from that showcase event that caused the game to become really successful. But it was picking, it was a luck, in that sort of sense. But Caroline, is there anything that doesn't work anymore or at least maybe doesn't work in 2025?
I mean, I think that Jeff himself was sort of talking about too much CGI and just kind of like vibe videos, but not sort of, they're not following up with gameplay. So I think there's a little bit of fatigue around that. I mean, obviously, announcing things at the wrong time, picking really busy periods to announce things, sort of getting your audience a little bit wrong, maybe not paying a lot of respect to your fandom as well. Fandoms can can feel ignored, and then you have to deal with that. But I think it's quite funny because a lot of these things do sort of come down to luck sometimes, and people don't really discuss that enough, and something will happen and then it will just be fortuitous and and spiral. But yeah, I think that the main things are to just kind of choose your moment, and to make sure that your content is good and it is kind of giving enough, not just kind of vibes and CGI, that it's giving enough gameplay.
Do you have like a recent-ish example of a reveal that went down well, worked? Or the other side of it didn't work?
That's like a really good one, actually. Go on to Rupert and I'll come back to that one. I'm trying not to get into
I don't know. I was just going to say, hoping for good luck is not a strategy, and which is what a lot of smaller games that are they just think, oh, I'm just going to push it out there and hope it does well, and that's really probably the worst strategy, just because it's occasionally happened, and you sometimes strike gold, but you can't rely on that or plan on it.
No, well,
you can piggyback on it though.
Sam.
Chris.
Hello. We're talking about these places to announce games, and you and your company are part of that story. You're creating the trailers, building the branding around those sort of moments. How does this sort of congested space with so many events and often so many games within these events, how has that influenced how you approach building those sort of things?
Yes, there's a lot going on. There's lots of different opportunities. So events or kind of planned moments within a campaign. In terms of creative, we always kind of start with the piece before that, which is, what is your go-to-market strategy? So we're a huge advocate of, I think, this idea of making your own luck. I think you can inform it with data and insights and the experience of being in the industry and knowing what has worked and what hasn't. So for me, before you start, let's create trailers, let's, do digital toolkits. What's the strategy of how you're going to do it? But I think part of it is also creating content, which is quite modular. And I think it needs to be content aware and adaptable. I think we probably all experience times in campaigns when out of nowhere you've done your planning and something comes to fruition and you want to capitalize on it. So I think content which can be adapted is sensible in this climate. And that's something we definitely try and do when we're working with campaigns. I think that also helps in terms of any budgetary restrictions, because it is difficult sometimes just magically find some more budget where you can create more content and you want to repurpose what you've actually got. So we try and make that part of our thinking when we're developing that creative.
Is there anything that you tell people to steer clear from and not do?
I would say not direct. I think it's very easy to say avoid because it's not working. I think we're definitely seeing things that are less effective in the market. And I think that's partly to do with how audiences are consuming and how tastes are changing. So one size fits all kind of trailer approach, but then your cut downs and what you look like on social, I think is less effective. However, I would caveat that with, I think it's really important that games have a really strong brand recall. So your landing page should look like your paid media campaign. Otherwise it can be confusing and you can think you're buying something that you're not. And I think something that I would encourage that we see, and this comes with some level of flexibility with clients, is sometimes brands only really go to their audience when there's news, as opposed to there's big gaps in the campaign where actually cultural, social activity is happening. And if you have the flexibility or the community set up to be part of that conversation, it's an amazing way to build further culture within your communities. And I think that's something that some brands don't do. And I understand the restrictions on that, but I would say that's a big part of being more successful in the current climate.
If I may add, you asked a very good question, what mistakes to avoid. And I think what many companies don't realize, or smaller studios or devs, is how important the other part that making games is. So marketing, PR, events, strategy behind that. You really need to spend your time because the games will not sell by themselves. They need a push, a help, and you can achieve that through different campaigns, events, all that. So you need to spend time thinking about it, strategizing about that, and also the link between devs and then people who are executing these things has to be really close. So there's an understanding of what the game really is, how it can appeal to others, and then you have to build a strategy based on that. But you can't forget about these elements. And the smaller the company is, the more focused they are probably on making the game, and they should somehow plan for the other part, for talking about it.
And to interject, I think that's really key in terms of the relationship between developer, publisher, and agency support. If that is happening, I think sometimes games are misrepresented because of this want to market it and deliver success. But actually, that's the quickest way to isolate gamers. You know, you've got to be authentic to what you actually are creating.
And that maybe there's this biggest mistake.
Yeah.
So the whole campaign showing something that the game is not.
The first time, this is something Pete Hines, who used to work at Bethesda, said, the first time gamers touch your game, engage with your game, it isn't when they play it or turn it on for the first time. It's when they see the first trailer or the first logo. That's the first time they see it. So developers have to be involved in that process, because that's the first time that they're speaking to the audience.
Our saying on our corridors is that you can make the first impression only once. So you really need to make sure that it's a good one. But then there's the whole follow-up, right? And the rest of the campaign, which has to be aligned.
I think also people just relying just on one thing. So in PR, just relying on traditional media. Like, I still think traditional media are a very important part of the mix, and they bring credibility. But just relying on that is just not good enough anymore. You know, you just have to have several different touch points. You have to, you know, be across, you know, social, TikTok and YouTube, and look at your creator community. I mean, even last night, opening night live, people will have been watching that through the eyes of their favourite influencer, you know, so they're not just watching what you're feeding them, they're watching that through the filter of their favourite commentator. So you have to kind of be very aware of all that and how you can feed them, and, you know, maybe get stuff, not just to a showcase, but get stuff to the kind of the key influencers as well at the same time.
Allows me to ask Rupert a question. Hello, Rupert. So traditional media is not that important, Caroline just said. She didn't quite say that.
I did not say that.
Yeah, you come from the media world, but we're seeing radical changes almost every week. There's something changing, something's being sold, or people going independent, and you're involved in some of that. Where do you see the space heading?
Yeah, so I guess traditional media, meaning websites in this context. So yeah, I think we're at a pretty pivotal moment where, you know, the vast majority of traffic to websites over the last 20 years has come from Google. And because of the rise of OpenAI, you know, ChatGPT and those kind of tools, you know, Google has kind of fundamentally changed the sort of rules of engagement. So most gaming sites had the stuff on the homepage, which was for their community and kind of the stuff that the journalists like writing, you know, and then, you know, most of them had a big kind of guides factory in the background, which was driving a huge amount of page views and kind of answering people's questions from their Google searches. I think now that the sort of the tide has gone out a little bit and that search traffic is declining, you know, everyone that was beholden to those kind of platforms, Google, you know, specifically, you know, because you now have the AI snippet, you have, you know, YouTube videos, you have Google Discover, you know, you might be at the very bottom if you're lucky, but most websites are not getting that kind of discovering that traffic anymore. So they're not getting those page views, which means they're not getting the revenue. So I think traditional media in that sense is extremely challenged at the moment. And so we're seeing websites obviously downsizing in terms of staff, which gives fewer kind of opportunities for coverage. And I guess, you know, the attention economy generally for games, you know, is extremely crowded. You know, you've got thousands and thousands of games. You've got every other live service game, all of these updates, and that's, you know, competing for consumers' attention, but it's also competing for journalists' attention at the same time. So even to get the opportunity to make a first impression is quite rare for a lot of these games. And yeah, at the point where you do that, you know, people have moved on, their attention spans are very, very low. So if you don't make an immediate impact on journalists and on creators and influencers, then you're unlikely to be able to do it on consumers as well. I guess the other thing, you know, is that, you know, a lot of people obviously getting their information from ChatGPT now, you know, hundreds of millions of users, they're asking questions all the time. That's regurgitating information largely from, you know, Reddit and other websites. So there's a value, not just in terms of reaching the audience, you know, of kind of the big, you know, gaming websites, but also by getting kind of a permanent archive of information and content out there, that's the training data for a lot of these models. So when you ask ChatGPT for a recommendation for a game, rather than kind of asking Google or a website, that's going to be picking up articles and information from forums, from websites and so on. So you need to, I believe, keep websites, Reddit, forums, all of these, in the mix and part of the plan, when you're promoting a game.
But we are starting to see a bit of a rise in the media space of these independent sites, which are often being paid for. I think it's a good thing that now that people are starting to pay for their media more, but it does change. It almost changes the customer, right? From a media perspective, for a while, the customer's been the advertiser, and we were talking about this earlier, and now the customer's where it probably should be, which is with the readers. I don't really have a question, but it's...
well, I mean, in a way, it's reminiscent of print magazines, which, kind of for £5 a month, if you had 10,000 people buying it, that could be a viable business. And that's exactly what the sort of Patreon model is now for, super specialist outlets, whether that's video, whether that's Substack newsletters, whether it's websites and so on, being supported directly by the end consumer is a much healthier place, in terms of reliability and predictability of revenue for the outlet. And it also means that the people working on those can just serve their audience rather than serving Google and their audience, and sort of struggling with that mix, which I think everyone has been doing over the last few years. So I think it is healthy, but obviously it's a challenge then, which if they are, from a marketing point of view, uncorruptible, maybe unadvertisable, kind of publications, with, kind of niche audiences, how do you infiltrate that from a sort of PR and marketing point of view? And also, how do you track the really exciting, interesting tastemakers? It used to be send your press release to IGN and GameSpot and Eurogamer and hope that they cover it, or make sure that they cover it. But now if there's something, really specialist, how do you get their attention? And again, that comes down to, I guess, respecting their time, making sure that you're putting great assets, great first impression in front of them, and being super specific in the targeting of both the players and the outlets that you want to be on.
Yeah, I mean, we're not, these things don't exist in a vacuum either. So these, I agree. I mean, I think that there's always going to be a place for expert opinion and, curation, especially as you kind of like move into a sort of an AI sludge, sort of world. But yeah, you're going to want these things. But I think that also, we're not in a vacuum, and they're going to be looking at things that are popping off on Twitter. They're going to be looking at things that are, kind of like popping off on TikTok even. So everything's sort of feeding into itself, and that sort of that hype that you can create over here can then come back and, be sort of informing these guys as well.
Absolutely. In the same way that, larger creators will follow the smaller creators, they want to follow the community and make sure that what they're doing is credible. The same thing, if they hear about a game, they might search for it and they want to see other people speaking about it, whether that's, journalists, expert opinion, but ultimately, yeah, it's that recommendation and curation, and sort of fantastic really to see these kind of outlets pop up and now be able to really do justice to their passion, their love for the topic, rather than, serving multiple masters.
Well, you talked about smaller creators there, and you talked about influencers and creators a moment ago. You work with smaller creators at Just. Got that right, didn't I? Do you find companies are doing anything wrong when it comes to working with influencers and content creators?
I guess it's not about doing something wrong. We just felt that, if you've got kind of a pyramid of creators with your biggest, superstar influencers at the top, and then you've got your kind of larger creators, and then at the grassroots level, you've got people that have a huge amount of passion and knowledge. They're the people that know your game inside out. In a way, they've got the most to add to your community. They're the ones that can spread the word on social media and so on. And we felt that was probably the most kind of unrecognized group. So that's where we've kind of focused, which is if you've got a community or you've got a player base, can you incentivize them, reward them, recognize them for creating great content around your game? If a journalist, I think we were talking about this earlier, they if there's a game being released every 30 minutes, no one can cover all of those games, let alone play them and cover them. So, ultimately you've got to tap into your player base and your community to kind of help you spread the word and kind of be your ambassadors and advocates. So that's what we're trying to do with our platform. And I know that you're going to have a bunch of other platforms focused on that same area as well.
Yeah, if I may, when picking the perfect influencer to work with, you have to also think about the audience and if that audience may be potentially interested in your game. Because I made that mistake in the past. I went for numbers, and these numbers were then like I had videos with really huge amount of views, but I couldn't feel that there is connection with people who were watching that, because they were watching an influencer, not influencer playing our game. Like we could replace our game with whatever, and that would barely make a difference. So it's the true influencer. You need to connect with people who are interested in what you can deliver.
Well, I'll stick with it because one of the things that I'll circle back to events, because CD Projekt's famous for its events. You're always at every event, even if you don't have anything.
Not every, but
I always see you at events. Every event, if you're not there, something's gone wrong. Why are they so important to you? Why do you put so much investment in that area?
in-person events.
Yeah.
So for me, this is the perfect place where we can connect with gamers, and on many levels, it's really crucial. From just borrowing some of their passion and energy, like it's needed for everyone, both on communication side, marketing side, but also for devs. Like devs loves coming to events like Gamescom because they can feed with the energy of others. And this is a place where you can connect directly, you can have discussions, you can get the feedback, which somehow resonates stronger than the one which you see on social media. On social media, unless it's a, Discord group, which is like, you know people there, all the comments, they're like numbers to some extent. If it occurs more often, then it's more important. But when you have in-person discussion with someone, you like take their perspective, and this is like amazing. So energy is one side, feedback is another side. Then it's a great place just to meet with everyone. It's extremely convenient. If you're on the shop on a show like this one, you can have hundreds, if not thousands, if you're lucky, people visiting your booth, having a contact, sometimes first contact with what you're presenting. So it's really efficient in terms of these connections.
I'm getting a theme of quality over quantity is an element that sort of.
You can have both. Like you said, we are on every event because you can go all around the world if your budget supports that, and you can find different perspective and talk with different groups. And these people are gamers around the globe. They're really happy when they can talk directly with devs as well. And we can show them something special, sometimes something for the first time. Sometimes we just show the same stuff, but it's like with this personal touch when we can stop, explain. Gamers love that. We love that. It's efficient, effective. So we just do that. But also, like, there's so many different kinds of events.
Yeah, I was going to ask
right?
about this because you've done, well, I've written down some of the, you did, I think you went to an Italian castle for some Witcher DLC. I'm hoping to get invited to the next one. You take your games on tour. I've seen CD Projekt, the Nintendo things. You've done your big announcement events as well.
Yes, as well.
So you've got a concert on this evening,
Yes,
right?
we do.
So
just about to start in half an hour.
yeah. So all of those, I guess, play different roles for you.
So everything is part of the strategy, the mix. Every event should serve the purpose, and you should understand what it's behind. Like the concert, for example, we wanted to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Witcher 3. That was the idea. And we talked with community team who brought that concept. And after 1 hour discussion, we said, like, why one concert? Like, maybe we can do more. And it was 11 months, I think, the whole process, the thinking behind preparing, talking with our biz dev, finding partner, deciding what's the format. We came up with more than 50 concerts around the globe. And I'm thinking about that as a huge community event, but not targeting one room of people, but more than 150,000 people, because this is the number of people who will hopefully participate in these concerts. So it's like...
It's amazing.
Thank you. No, it's like I feel great about it because it's like it developed, and the big idea behind that was to make it self-sustainable. So we have tickets for this concert. From this money, we organize special events after concerts, after some of concerts. We can do it everywhere. And there will be like a dozen of parties, tosses around the world for community. So that was like us strategizing about how we can squeeze the most out of event. And of course, we're privileged because we had a cool game to support that. But it like your thinking and pushing forward should never stop on whatever scale you are.
Changing the subject ever so slightly, because you do these big announcement moments or big reveals, trailer reveals quite frequently. But one of the ones, obviously, we talked about your breathtaking moment, right? And I remember those E3s, and Cyberpunk was king of like 2 E3s. Everyone was talking about the game. So much hype and excitement. It was very successful from a marketing point of view. But then the game came out, and even though the game has more than recovered since and is brilliant now, it obviously it had a tough launch. Was there
Slightly.
Mm-hmm.
Slightly, yeah.
How has that changed how you approach things now when it comes to events?
So basically, everything is in a constant motion. Like everything changes from one year to another. But if we talk about that period and learning from that period from the events perspective, is now we forgot about a lot of things. But we had this wonderful E3s in 2018, 2019, but then we had COVID. And we went full digital, and we fell in love with digital formats because it was really easy. We had like our own studio where we could record everything. But even now, I think like the biggest, mistake or thing which we missed was physical events, like places and moments when we could have a dialogue with community, with gamers, with influencers, with journalists, with everyone, because these moments, I was talking before about like what comes from events. Events are great for setting expectations and managing them, because you can get the feeling what people are thinking. When you're only in the online world, it's way harder. So after learnings from the release of Cyberpunk, when we were promoting Phantom Liberty, so the expansion to Cyberpunk, we decided that physical events will be a really important part of the campaign. And we created Phantom Tour, which was like series of our own events where we went around the globe from Brazil to Japan. And we were meeting with journalists, influencers, but mostly with gamers, with community. In cinemas, we're presenting them the game. And then there was a time to talk about it, to play, because we had a game with us. And that was like the best learning from the launch, I guess. And it worked great for us.
Good. Sam, I'll go back to you because there was a few questions I was going to ask you, which I didn't do, which was one is around short form video, which is obviously, it's a thing.
Is it?
Yeah,
is it a thing? Okay.
It's a thing now. And the game business even has a TikTok account. That's a thing that how has that influenced your approach now? Has that changed how you, well, I guess it must do.
Yeah, it definitely does. I will caveat this with, I do feel like you still need long form content. I think short form is the discoverability of long form. So I suppose, like, say that up front. It does change what we do. And I think in this forum, with everyone here, we know you need to be creating hooks. You've got the first 2 to 3 seconds of getting someone's attention, and then you're kind of swiped aside. I think short form content and actually its power within a campaign is actually fans. It's a low barrier to entry for them to engage in a campaign and create content for themselves. And I think that is actually where you can see a lot of success on how well a game's doing, that actually people are engaging and creating it and doing it themselves. We also use a lot of short form to do kind of performance testing and actually how is it doing. I think that goes back to my earlier answer around kind of adaptability of content, being able to pivot when needed and not have too many kind of strict guardrails in place. It's definitely a thing. It's not going anywhere. And it's definitely something we talk about a lot when we're kind of being effective on a campaign. For clients.
Most of your campaigns, I imagine, are strictly under NDAs. You can never talk about them. But are there any examples of something that you've worked on that's really worked recently? Or if you can say.
I can, yeah. It's almost like I knew you were going to ask me that question, Chris. Yes. So recently, actually this year, there's quite a few campaigns that have launched, which has been really lovely because generally, a lot of stuff is you can't talk about. So we've recently done launches for Lost Souls Side. We've done Stellar Blade, which is lovely. But in this forum, actually, the one that I thought would be quite good to talk about is a smaller project that we did for fast travel games. It's titled called The Midnight Walk. The reason I thought it was quite a good example is we were set very clear KPIs by the client, so around kind of wish listing and kind of click through. So it was essentially, it was taking content that had been developed internally, adapting it for different paid media placements and kind of social rollout, and working with the media agencies to traffic those and their performance. And it was a great success. So we worked on a strategy. We worked on kind of the key demographic that we was trying to attract with this title. So indie title. I don't know if those who aren't aware of it, it's kind of like a horror adventure, stop motion clay animation. That's a mouthful, but it is, and it's a great title. So we found where those people targeted those people in terms of its audience, and the results were great. So the KPIs that were set for wish listing was 350K. We doubled that. The click-through rate was 135% over forecast. And I think in this forum, I can say it, the budget was relatively lean. So it was $100,000. So we did the adapting, we did the paid media, and, you know, for fast travel games, it's a great success. So definitely one to talk about here.
Oh, wow. Wow. We've seen a rise in companies announcing games and then immediately putting them out, or very shortly after putting them out. And we just had Oblivion do it this year to phenomenal success. I'm not sure all of them are successful, but the one that we can certainly see the ones that have been. Maybe Caroline, this is for you. Is there anything companies should be considering when weighing up whether to go down that route?
I mean, are you interesting enough to do that? You know, like, is there kind of a groundswell? You know, are you Hades 2? Are you, you know, are people when they kind of see that going to go, oh my God, you know, or are they just going to be like, sorry, what is this? I mean, that's just the main question is sort of, you know, you have to sort of all goes back to kind of knowing yourself and really understanding sort of, you know, where you fit and what will be the appetite for that. And then I think also having the infrastructure in place so that when you do that, everything doesn't fall over.
If I may as well, I'd say it's a high risk strategy. I think it can pay off. But I think part of that is also just having a really strong creative hook, having all your ducks in a row in terms of what's happening with the community, what's happening with your assets. And I think you have to go big and bold and quick and unified. And I think that is where you will get that cut through, because that's basically what you're doing to get that cut through.
Yeah, it will work only if you go viral. Yeah. And it's so hard to go viral. Like we are talking about all these great games which like succeed, but we are not talking about stealth launches which we don't know because no one realized that these games exist. And this is like super tricky. And like we never release the game like that, but sometimes even when we do like a big update, and if there's no leading time, prep time, we are risking, like, because maybe there will be something spectacular just around the corner, and there will be the thing for that hour or for that day, right?
I'm always terrified if someone was to do that and then something was to happen in the world that just immediately nobody was talking about it because something big happened. And there's nothing you can do to control that. Whereas if you make an announcement, I guess, and it happened to clash with something somebody said in politics or whatever, and it got drowned out, at least, you know, you have a chance to make that up on a campaign. I guess if you are, I don't know, Rockstar or Valve or whatever, you can do a drop like that and people pick up on it. But if you're,
there are some black holes, and when they happen, like everything else disappears. And in most cases, you know about them, you can predict. But sometimes something will happen, as you said, and like, I don't know if you remember or was looking at that, but when Elden Ring was released, they killed YouTube for everything else. Like on YouTube, it was all only guides, tips, tricks, how to beat a boss for 6 weeks. It was only that. So whoever wanted or had a cool strategy for YouTube in that time frame, it just didn't work.
Yeah, one of my favorite game developers made one of my favorite games, released a title on the same day as Red Dead Redemption 2. It was the Rusty Pup, and he'd got it in his head that this would be a good strategy because no one else will do that. This will be a good moment. But nobody was talking about anything else. And nobody was writing guides, no one was doing videos about it, and his game completely disappeared.
But sometimes, like, somehow it works. Like this year we have Clair Obscur and Oblivion released the same week, both RPGs. So in theory, same target group, and both were successful, and everyone was talking about one or another, actually jumping from one to another. It was almost like Barbie or Oppenheimer situation.
Was it the exception to prove the rule? So we mentioned about AI from a media perspective. Obviously, people use AI in marketing in other areas, but it does seem to be quite a controversial route to go down. Caroline, is it a no-go area? I've asked you.
I feel like people just now say AI, and AI, does a lot of very specific things. So it's sort of, like, well, what do you mean by that? I think if you're helping it, if you're using it to maybe do a bit of research or something, and you understand that you have to check that research, and I don't feel that that's too bad. And I don't know. I mean, I think it's here, right? So you have to use it, I think, responsibly. I think you have to use it openly and be honest about it. But I feel like it is one of those things that is here. I do think people are using it. I think it depends on how you use it. And, are you using it to sort of get rid of the empty page? I think that's okay. If you're using it to kind of, squeeze every single, extra penny and maybe get rid of people, I don't know, I don't feel so great about that. But then the content that comes out, it's not great. It's not sort of, you still want that kind of human creativity, don't you?
There's a big question. We might not get through it. We all know that building communities are crucial to a successful game. We have talked about that a little bit. But to a lot of people, a lot of developers, it seems to mean setting up a Discord. But what should publishers be thinking when it comes to, and developers be thinking when engaging with communities? Are there other things they should be doing?
Well, just a couple of points, I guess. Yeah, build it and they all come is not a strategy. Set up a Discord, that's not really a plan. Like, 'cause obviously you are going to have to set up a Discord server, but that's not the whole plan. I think the main thing is around authenticity, which is we touched on in all forms, right, of marketing and media, and authenticity and how you handle the community is probably the number one thing. How you communicate with them on their terms, and are authentic to you as a developer and to them as an audience. And that's going to be very different for every different game and for every different community. So I think that's probably the most, golden rule, I guess.
I would add that you should think about your community as a long-term relation. So it's not hit and run. It's if you play your cards well, if you are frank, if you're open and transparent, they will stay with you for years and will support you in the worst moments. So it's really like you should work on that relation and treat that as a relation, not as a marketing tube which you can use to announce things and make them be shared with others.
And may I add also, I completely agree. I think there's a lot of emphasis that we do naturally, which is using Discord as a communication tool from us to our kind of community. I think also its power is actually just giving them a space for them to interact together. Discord is just the tool. It's not the be all and end all, and it's on us to create conversation and the culture for them to carry that journey on. And I think that's where you get some of the most successful kind of Discord channels.
At EGX in London, you would have still been there, Rupert, it must have been 8 years ago. I invited the Sea of Thieves team to go and do a panel, and about 500 people dressed as pirates descended upon the event. And the best thing about that wasn't the panel, it wasn't the fact they all, the game wasn't even there, but they all went to the pub afterwards, and you just get in this pub of everyone dressed up as pirates, but they're all sharing gamer tags and talking about stories and all this sort of thing. And it was genuinely wonderful. I just thought it was a wonderful thing. It was just a community moment. And they now do that everywhere. They go everywhere to do those sort of things to get people together. It's more important than even demoing the game in that sort of context. Final question. This is for every one of you. What do you think is the one thing games companies should be thinking about when announcing their games that they're probably not thinking about?
So I like to think about Gamescom as a place where few different kinds of events collide. So you have the online component, the Open Night Live, where is the place for big announcements. Then you have the place where you can meet with journalists, with media, with influencers, with business partners. so the B2B area, and then you have B2C, so all gamers and people. And I think you should like have a strategy for each, and then you will squeeze the most out of it. And if possible, you can do something outside of Gamescom as well, like have a follow-up, a small party for your community, a small gathering somewhere. So you can combine all the wars in one. And if you don't, then you potentially are losing something.
Yeah, Gamescom call it a 360 festival. It's actually one of the things that E3 didn't have. So Caroline, your question to you.
I think, the one thing that we always advise to people, especially smaller indies, is to get some sort of outside eyes on your game, which is why, events are magic. I mean, we've worked at EGX for 10 years together. And you see developers coming and they're playing the game for the first time with, their audiences and their fandoms. And the feedback is phenomenal, but sometimes it's not what you expected. And I think that's sometimes you'll watch somebody get quite far down the road of the game. And then by the time they sort of like taking it out, see, just kind of even sort of friendly feedback, it can be quite late. So you can get developers getting quite close to the knuckle, and with something that might be like an easy fix, let's say, and they just haven't sort of stood back. It's like their baby, and they just haven't stood back and taken that sort of, outside opinion. So I think that's the thing that I see, quite often, even with quite big companies, that they don't really take a beat to just sort of, think, oh, how is this going to be perceived, and what will people actually think about this when it gets out into the world?
Mm.
I'll opt out of this question because I haven't thought of anything. I don't know what developers are and therefore aren't thinking about, and there are so many of them. They're all going to be having different challenges and things. So yeah, I genuinely can't give an
answer to that one.
It's me then.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll do an extension of what Caroline was talking about, because let's live in a fantasy world where everyone has enough time and the announce isn't a rush, and you haven't forgotten a million different things and you're trying to get it out the door. And I think that actually taking a beat, but checking your storefronts, checking your landing page, checking your paid media campaign, just take a day, 2 days, just check it looks good, that you're turning up consistently, the quality is what you want it to be, because you don't get a chance to make a good second impression. And I think that that's key to a really strong announce.
Mm.
And I'm sure people are thinking that, but we just run out of time.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you to the panelists. Please give them a huge warm. That is all we have time for. If you like what you heard, you can hear more. We do this sort of thing all the time on thegamebusiness.com. Please tune in. Thank you for Keywords for putting on this excellent event. I'm looking forward to the drinks later. Until next time, thank you all for joining us.